In this podcast episode, Dr. Chris Palmer discusses the critical and often overlooked role of metabolism and nutrition in mental health, challenging widespread assumptions within psychiatry and neuroscience. The conversation explores the connections between diet, metabolic dysfunction, and severe mental illnesses such as bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. Dr. Palmer also highlights systemic issues within the food industry, the limitations of current mental health treatments, and practical lifestyle interventions that can significantly improve brain function and overall well-being. Dr. Palmer begins by addressing the common misconception that metabolism is solely about calorie burning and energy expenditure linked to weight management or athletic performance. He expands this understanding by describing metabolism as a foundational biological process that converts food into energy and building blocks necessary for cellular function. This perspective establishes a direct link between nutrition and brain health, as the brain's function depends heavily on metabolic processes. Despite this, many professionals in mental health fields remain skeptical about nutrition's influence on disorders like ADHD, depression, bipolar disorder, or schizophrenia. Dr. Palmer emphasizes that metabolic dysfunction markers, common in physical diseases like diabetes and obesity, also appear consistently in various mental illnesses, suggesting a shared biological underpinning. A major concern raised by Dr. Palmer is the unchecked introduction of chemicals and additives into the food supply, particularly in the United States. He underscores how the FDA currently relies largely on manufacturers' assurances rather than rigorous independent testing before allowing new substances in processed foods. The example of Terra flour, a chemical added to a beef substitute linked to hospitalizations and liver failure, illustrates the dangerous consequences of lax oversight. Dr. Palmer highlights that tens of thousands of chemicals are present in U.S. foods, many untested for their impact on human metabolism and brain health. This widespread exposure to artificial ingredients in ultra-processed foods is likely a hidden driver behind the escalating epidemics of both physical and mental chronic diseases. According to Dr. Palmer, subtle changes in mood, anxiety levels, sleep quality, motivation, and cognitive clarity often signal underlying metabolic problems affecting the brain. These early symptoms are widespread today but rarely connected by individuals to poor metabolic health or dietary causes. He points out that metabolic syndrome, a cluster of conditions including abnormal cholesterol levels, elevated blood sugar, high blood pressure, and abdominal obesity, is present in about 93% of American adults. This alarming statistic reflects a broad metabolic health crisis that overlaps significantly with the increased incidence of mental health challenges. Dr. Palmer advocates focusing on 6 foundational pillars to support mental and metabolic health: nutrition, movement, sleep, reduction of harmful substances, stress management, and nurturing purpose or relationships. Each element helps restore brain function and resilience. Exercise, particularly in natural settings without screen distractions, can boost mood and cognitive performance. Sleep is critical, with the vicious cycle of sleep deprivation worsening brain function and stress. Avoiding harmful substances like tobacco, vaping, marijuana, and excessive alcohol is essential, as these can impair mitochondrial and brain function or increase risks for serious psychiatric conditions. Meditation and mindfulness further support mental well-being and stress resilience, while emphasizing that no single diet fits everyone due to genetic, epigenetic, microbiome, and personal differences. Dr. Palmer recommends eating whole, unprocessed foods reminiscent of those available to ancestors. Ultra-processed foods laden with artificial additives lack essential nutrients and contribute to metabolic and mental health disorders. Although the exact dietary needs vary, avoiding chemical additives and focusing on nutrient-dense, real foods is a universal starting point. For some, strategic dietary interventions including fasting or fasting-mimicking diets, such as ketogenic protocols, offer powerful therapeutic potential that extends beyond weight loss into brain healing. Dr. Palmer discusses the complexity of studying the effects of food additives on mental health due to the ethical challenges of human testing. However, animal studies reveal concerning data, especially regarding common artificial sweeteners like aspartame found in many diet sodas. Research on mice shows that exposure to normal levels of aspartame induces anxiety-like behaviors linked to epigenetic changes, which persist across multiple generations even without direct exposure. Epidemiological studies in humans also associate high consumption of artificial sweeteners with higher rates of anxiety and depression, underscoring the potential multi-generational harm from these ubiquitous additives. The conversation turns to the rising prevalence of mental health diagnoses, particularly bipolar disorder, which has doubled among adults and dramatically increased in children and adolescents. Dr. Palmer acknowledges debates attributing this rise to better recognition, societal factors, or overdiagnosis, but affirms that a genuine increase is occurring, likely linked to environmental and metabolic factors. Traditional treatments mainly rely on mood stabilizers and psychiatric medications that often fail to achieve remission for many patients. This treatment gap fuels his advocacy for integrating metabolic and nutritional approaches, which have shown promise in improving outcomes. Dr. Palmer highlights the ketogenic diet as an evidence-based treatment with historical roots in epilepsy management over the past century. It's now being explored in over 20 clinical trials worldwide for various mental health conditions, including bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. Contrary to misconceptions, ketogenic diets can be adapted to diverse dietary preferences and are not simply bacon-heavy. He shares anecdotal and preliminary clinical evidence showing that severe cases of mental illness can improve substantially, sometimes even leading to medication reduction or remission. While not a cure-all, ketogenic nutrition is a powerful tool within a broader treatment strategy. Dr. Palmer shares his personal story of growing up with a mother afflicted by chronic psychosis, whose mental illness devastated her life and family. This experience fueled his determination to reform psychiatric care and find more effective treatment paths. He expresses deep frustration with the limitations of conventional psychiatry, but also optimism grounded in emerging research and growing bipartisan recognition of the metabolic and nutritional origins of mental illness. Dr. Palmer foresees a paradigm shift over the next decades that could transform mental health care from symptom management toward root cause healing. Regarding the transmission of mental illness risk across generations, Dr. Palmer explains that while genetics and epigenetics play a role, environment and lifestyle exert a more powerful influence. He urges parents to provide love, safety, and community, but also to pay close attention to their children's nutrition, particularly minimizing ultra-processed and chemically laden foods that affect brain health. He acknowledges that trauma and adversity remain primary risk factors, yet emphasizes that improving diet and metabolic health is a crucial blind spot often neglected in prevention efforts. The discussion covers substances like tobacco, vaping, marijuana, and alcohol, all of which damage brain metabolism and increase risk for psychiatric conditions, including psychosis. Vaping is not safe despite common misconceptions and can perpetuate addiction, especially to nicotine. Marijuana's psychoactive THC component impairs cognitive function and motivation and raises the risk of schizophrenia or bipolar disorder by about 4 times. Alcohol similarly harms brain and metabolic health. Reducing or abstaining from these substances is essential for mental wellness. Dr. Palmer closes with several key messages. Accept yourself as you are. Recognize that chronic mental illnesses are not necessarily lifelong sentences, and realize that lifestyle changes, especially dietary shifts, can yield significant improvements. He stresses kindness to oneself and others as a universal principle. His work aims to provide hope and actionable interventions for those suffering from mental illness through a science-based understanding of metabolism's critical role in brain health.